And I do want to highlight one other tool, which I feel like would be so helpful for a lot of the entrepreneurs out there that are like, their mind is so busy. And it's like, how can you drop into that state of yin, that state of receiving, is your deck. I feel like that's
Oh, thank you.
I think that's such a great tool for anyone that's going through actually a difficult time and doesn't know where to begin and doesn't know how to like, have these breakthroughs, but they're like, need it. And it's like, okay, how can I receive? Talk a little bit about your deck.
Yes, the deck was something I created with Dr. Monisha Vasa, who's a psychiatrist. And it was in response to people who said, like, that workshop was great, but could you text me every morning? And I'm like, I would love to text you every morning, but I can't do that. So, and a lot of folks were asking me maybe for an app or something of that case, but the last thing I want is to drive somebody to their phone more. So I created literally a deck of prompts. There are 52 cards. There's a write and draw prompt on each, and they range from really gentle to pretty varsity. And the idea is shuffle them up, pick one at will, use your intuition to pick them, like see what's there for you. If you don't like what you picked, pick another one. It's okay. But it's a very low cost barrier way to have some expertise at your ready, but it's a tool for you to interact with and make it your own so that you have 104 different journaling prompts for you right there at the ready.
I love that. I need to start using it more because I feel like I need to shake up my journaling practice as we were talking about yesterday. And I feel like that's such a great tool that'll be helpful to so many. You mentioned something about tech and journaling. I'm interested on your perspective on, journaling on your phone and just like what role you see technology playing in the future of journaling and creativity with AI. Do you feel like there is going to be a renaissance of analog? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm gonna play my card, which is I don't know what I think about AI and journaling
Mm.
yet. Okay. Yeah. However, as far as technology goes, I am not anti-technology. I think that it would be short-sighted and limiting. So if somebody tells me that they use the Notes app on their phone because it's the only way that they're going to journal, I say, great. I would rather
Mm-hmm.
have you use that or your laptop or even voice notes than not do it. There's a new journaling app that's available as part of the new operating system. It breaks my heart
Mm.
that people are conceding more of their personal analog space to a digital medium and spending more time on their phones.
Mm.
But if it's a difference between journaling and not, I'd rather have them do it. However, the benefits that I talked about, mental, emotional, physiological, they are actually increased by the act of doing it pen to paper. There are synaptic connections that get made in your brain that happen there where you get the most benefit from doing it that way. And I just feel that given where we are today, how connected we are in all ways, all things. We've seeded our menstrual cycle information to our phone, right? There's nothing left to be able to have a place that's just for you without any external noise is
Mm-hmm.
such a beautiful gift to give yourself, even if it's just 4 minutes, 4 times a week. So if you're a technology person, that's cool. Experiment, see what works for you. Just like I suggest trying different places, try different mediums, but don't count yourself out because you've got bad handwriting. Don't count yourself out because your hand can't keep up with your brain. Don't count yourself out because you can't even read your handwriting. Who cares? Who cares? Doesn't matter. Maybe you're not meant to reread it. That's okay. So it's a matter of just keeping the door open to the analog at this point. That's my first love. It is how I lead my workshops. It's what I invite people to do, but I'm not precious about it. I want people to journal however that finds them.
Amen. I've been through many different seasons that have many different reasons for my journaling practice. Even voice notes have been really powerful for me
Sure.
when I was going through my cancer healing. And then that kind of moved into a more structured practice, which has now been a more intuitive practice. And I think it's
Beautiful.
really finding the flow within that form is then the key for me. And I have so many more questions. I think one that I feel like would be really great to touch on as a final question before we dive into face off is just cultivating consistency. Like, how can one, you said the 4 day, the four by 4 by 4, but how can one cultivate greater consistency within their practice while still maintaining that gentle energy?
One of the things that I ask people is to identify where they see it fitting into their lives. And different people have different times of day and different moments in their life that are more conducive. And instead of trying to fight your life, work with it. So I had one client who was so dedicated. She was a single working mother, 3 kids, and she was
Oh my
an
gosh.
artist. So the only time that she had to journal was after school drops. She would pull over side of the road, get out her journal, lean against the steering wheel, and write. So I think it's about finding the space that works for you rather than feeling like you have to have the right Instagram moment
Mm-hmm.
or that it needs to be like you need to journal like Richard Branson. No, you just need to journal like you. And I think that that premise opens up a lot of permission for people. You don't need an adaptogen laden matcha in order to journal. It's just not necessary. So I that's where I would start for somebody who is like, okay, how do I create more of a consistency? It's like, all right, well, let's look at your life. Where could it fit in? Where do you think it
Mm,
might suit you rather than trying to work from like preconceived notions because people have a ton of them when it comes to
mm-hmm.
journaling. It's
Mm,
remarkable. They have all of these pictures and stories about the ways that they're supposed to be doing this or what it's supposed to mean.
mm,
But it's just supposed to fit into your life. And we don't need more self care stress. We don't need journaling guilt. We do not need that. So, like, if you're starting to feel any of that, the journaling expert that I am is telling you officially, you do not need to feel any guilt around this practice whatsoever. That is not
mm-hmm.
helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's when you tune into your life, what works for you is when you're really going to find not only the practices, but that's when you're going to get the downloads, and that's when you're going to find the space to actually like channel and get that wisdom. It's like that's when you're able to tap into your unique power because no one is living in a life just like you, and we're all trying to fit into these molds. And so thank you for highlighting also not transposing, that hustle mentality onto our healing journey. Like we talked about before, it's really about resacreding the process and being gentle with ourselves.
And Kara, one of the things that you mentioned that was so beautiful is talking about how like your journaling has changed over different seasons of your life. And that's because you listened to what you needed and wanted. And part of why I'm suggesting that people look at their lives and see what works for them is that just just the act of
Mm,
doing that and choosing where it works for them is something that we just don't do often enough. And to just like quiet a little bit of room and see where would this fit in for me? What does it look like for me? The journey's already happening.
you're so right. That power is really in the pause and taking an observer seat of your life. And it sounds very cliche to say that, but I feel like I haven't done that in a while. And you just reminding me of that yesterday. She's like, Laura was like, what do you want your day to actually look like? I'm like, oh my gosh, my life has changed so much in the past 6 months. I haven't thought about that. It's like my schedule and my routines no longer align, and change is so beautiful and welcome. It's like, yeah, it's like uncomfortable at times, but it's like you have to realize that your routines are able to again flow, and sometimes they will go out the window. There are seasons of my life where I was not journaling and I was like, no, that feels good. There are seasons of my
Yeah.
life where I haven't read. It's like that's a part of it. I'm kind of going full circle back to our initial conversation of You got to live your life. Tune into what feels good for you.
Because your life is a creative act. And every single day we're engaged in that. We are making it and then remaking it. And so most of us don't feel like that because we're not awake to it. And that's why I do this work, is to help remind people of that truth and help them come home to that.
Mm-hmm. It's not just about writing the manifestation list. It's about like living it, you know? I'm a
Yes.
big fan of Deborah Heinkamp and her demanifestation, although I love manifestation as well. But when you're so connected to that seat of awareness, like we're speaking about, and you're like living so intentionally and with such presence throughout your day to day, your life is a co-creation with
Yes.
the greater force, you know? It's
And why always more, 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 more?
right.
Maybe it's about taking a pause, looking around at what you have and appreciating it.
And it's so tough to reprogram that, you know. That's where the real, I feel like, work comes in, which is actually the undoing. It's actually doing no work, you know, not from a seat of complacency, but from a place of creating again the space and reconnecting with the little things that are around you, not the insatiable moreness and the materialism and the capitalistic ways.